What is going on, Diablo 2 fans? Dobrunsky here, and today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to essentially be doing a community-based feedback video on Terror Zone. So I have collected a majority of feedback from the comment section of my Terror Zone YouTube content, as well as interactions on Twitch streams, and I've sort of compressed the community's feedback, and I've kind of given you guys a voice or an opportunity to sort of like project that, because I do get sometimes a lot of negativity saying that I only push for certain changes that I would like to see. So I wanted to kind of give you guys a voice on some of the common themes that I've sort of seen for Terror Zones. And again, feel free to let me know in the comment section of this video if you guys agree or disagree, just another opportunity to voice your opinion on Terror Zones. But I've essentially sort of like identified 4 key themes that the community has sort of expressed or concerns with Terror Zones. The first one is build accessibility. So certain characters like a Hammered In compared to a Fire Sorceress, some have options to basically farm every Terror Zone, others don't. So that's something that the community would like to see addressed. The second is density discrepancy for monsters. So this is very apparent if you take a look at an area like Lower Kurast and then compare it to the Halls of Dead level 3. There's just a massive disparity difference there, so that's something that the community would like to see adjusted. As well as experience changes, that is the third one. So this is an interesting one, which the feedback has been kind of the opposite of what I've expected, and I sort of kind of checked myself, sort of digested it, kind of took your kind of perspective from it, and I kind of agree with it. So that's going to be an interesting one. A lot of people might not agree as well. It's sort of a very iffy one, talking about the experience race and the push to level 99. And if it's been made too easy or more accessible, yada, yada, yada. It is impossible to please everybody, but that definitely will be an interesting sort of minefield to walk through in this video. And the fourth and final theme is some sort of new content that is tied to the Terror Zone. So that is everything in its entirety that I want to cover. So your feedback that you've given me, as well as I do want to add my 2 cents as well. I'm going to throw that in there. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, if you could throw a like on it, that'd be awesome. And yeah, I do stream twice a week on Twitch. So if you enjoy this content, any follows on that platform would be very much appreciated. That being said, guys, let's jump in. So build accessibility is the first common theme that I've seen brought up from the community. So again, using the classic example, and this is a very kind of like pronounced example, there is definitely some builds that can farm more areas than others. But if you look at the Hammered In, there's hardly any magic communes in the game. This character can just steamroll every location up to the hardest difficulty settings, no problem. Versus the Fire Sorceress, lots of damage, but you can be stonewalled in specific areas. So let's say the Chaos Sanctuary becomes terrorized. Hammered In can crush it. Fire Sorceress is kind of forced to go farm another area. So I've seen 2 common suggestions to address this, and I think either implementing a combination of both of these or one or the other would actually completely address this issue, and I really do like the suggestions. So the first one is having possibly 2 or 3 Terror Zones spawn per hour. So randomized zones in different acts, but having the choice to pick between 2 or 3 different Terror Zones would alleviate this issue most of the time. So again, let's say you're a Blizzard Sorceress. The Crystalline Passage becomes terrorized. You're in trouble because your primary damage is cold. But if another preferable area in a different act spawns as a terrorized zone, you have to choose between the Crystalline Passage or, let's say, I don't know, an area that has no cold immunes, like the Ancient Tunnels. Actually, I don't think it spawns cold immunes, but or I don't think it spawns as a terror zone, excuse me, but that's besides the point. Having 2 or 3 different locations to choose from would allow you to pick a more preferable location based on your build, and it wouldn't kind of restrict you. So I think that is a good option. And the other is either tweaking resistances so that immunities aren't a thing in Terror Zones, or making it so that you can break immunities easier by adjusting resistance values. So that one would probably be a lot more work involved on the dev side of things, as opposed to just having 2 or 3 different locations spawn. But I actually like both of these suggestions. I've never personally been a big fan of hard immunities. Like, I'm okay with play through the game and you need to achieve certain gear, but then once you have that gear, like, why is it again a Lightning Sorceress with Infinity can farm 9 out of 10 Terror Zones, but a Fire Sorceress can't? I've always hated that restriction. Like, I'm fine with getting up to the point where you get Infinity to break immunities, but then why is it so wide open for Lightning and then nothing for Fire? Personally, never really liked that, but that's the first common theme that I've seen you guys brought up, and I do like both suggestions that you guys have had to address it. So density discrepancy is the second common theme that I've seen the community bring up, and it is so apparent between some of the locations. Most of them are average or like good monster density, but some of them are so poor, like Lower Kurast, for example. I would imagine, for those that want to like crunch numbers, but it's probably better to just farm Bale and skip a terrorized Lower Kurast zone. So the 2 suggestions have been to either, again, have additional rotating areas so that you can avoid those areas, or up the monster density. Now, I'm not sure behind the scenes and coding if it's it might be a massive challenge to have like double or triple the amount of monsters spawn in a specific terrorized zone, so that might be out of the question. But I think that that would be the best way to address the issue, because if you have 2 or 3 potential spawns for density discrepancies, you're just never going to choose that low monster density area. But if you had like 2 or 3 locations spawn and one was lower Kuros but it had 3 times the amount of monsters, then it would be worth farming. So I actually kind of like the first suggestion of just upping monster density in general, although I'm not really sure if that's completely viable on the coding side of things, but that would sort of be like the ideal way that I would like to see terror zones addressed. So the third common theme that I've seen brought up numerous times is how this is going to impact the race to 99 and experience changes in general. Now, my first initial take on this was, again, sort of gathering feedback from other content creators and Reddit space and whatnot, and seeing that it really compressed the race to 99. But when you actually look at it from the general playing perspective, I understand how the majority of you seem to be okay with making that race a little bit more accessible compared to what it was like before. Now, there is so many different facets to this, and I'm going to try and like cover them one by one, but there's a really excellent comment on one of my more recent YouTube videos from Matthew McKinney. I'll post edit and throw it up on the screen, but it says, "Look, I know this ruins the value of getting to 99, but this now lets normal people with actual lives get to 99, so we really don't need guys like you and Llama saying this is going to make it easy. This is a great addition to the game to make it an actual race for everyone to get to 99. So this is a very interesting point. I have only ever achieved level 99 once, and I did it via single player. So I had access to static maps and the player's X command, so I could at any point change the difficulty, which is essentially, for those that don't know, you just type in /players and then you put a number from 1 through 8, and I can instantly change the difficulty. So that's like on the fly being able to grab 8 people on Battle.net and throwing them into your game for more experience. So this is something that the average player base does not have access to. So even though it was a very large feat to get to 99 in single player, I was still able to do it because I could, whenever I wanted, to adjust the player's difficulty. This is something that players on Battle.net do not have the luxury of, and I'm sure that there are groups of players and you have a small dedicated group, like maybe 3 or 4 friends, you might play like 2, 3, 4 times a week. But let's be honest, if you're playing in a group of 3 or 4 people, there is no point of you trying to even push to get to level 99 and bail. There is no point. It is like 4,000 bail runs or something, and that is with a perfect XP Annie and Alndols working in a player's 8 group. So if you have a group of 7 other players that can consistently play with you, and you can get, you know, just grind for like a week straight and you can get to 99, that's great. But the general player base doesn't have access to that, and that's why when I kind of took a chance to just sit back and sort of like regurgitate the thoughts on that, I do agree that this is better. We shouldn't base the XP race to 99 around the 0.01% that have access to these insane groups. So I just want to reference Teo in the Maxwell group. I am taking nothing away from his push to 99. They worked in a coordinated 8-man group running Chaos over and over again, and the rate at which they were able to get experience to get to 99 was super impressive. It was fantastic. But only 0.01 or maybe 0.001% of the player base has access to a group like that to get to 99. The average player, if you're playing with 3 or 4 people, you're never going to make 99. If you're trying to join public bail runs, you're not going to be able to consistently join to get in 8-man groups to get to 99 as the player base falls off. It's just not going to happen. So this change with Terror Zones in its current form, I think I'm okay with it. I've seen some more feedback that if you're playing with like a casual 3 or 4 person group, probably going to take 100 or 200 hours to get to 99 with Terror Zones. That seems to me like a better compromise than the current race of it only being accessible to very, very few people. This does, to an extent, take away some of the like luster or achievement of getting 99, but do we balance the game around 0.001%, or do we balance it around the majority of the player base? So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. I agree with Matthew's take on it, as well as others that have expressed the race to 99. It being more accessible and a little bit faster for those that can play in dedicated groups is fine, but it is still going to be a pretty big grinding experience to get there for the average player. So I'm actually okay and on board with the current experience that you get from Terror Zones. and I don't think it really needs to be adjusted to make the race even harder. And the final theme that I've seen brought up a lot has been new content for Terra Zones. I do appreciate the sense of like new areas to farm and new locations. That definitely breaks up the monotony versus like farming Bale and Chaos over and over again. But to be fair, if you're playing with different select characters, you can farm different areas to change up the monotony. So whether it's want to farm cows one day, Travancore the next day, Pindle the next day, cows, Eldritch and Shank in the pits or ancient tunnels, there are current different locations that you can run to break up the monotony. So I do appreciate that there has been some new introduced areas, like farming the Flare Jungle as a Corpse Explosion Necro was pretty cool. But in my opinion, that's going to get old fast. So I would really like to see, as well as the community, some new content that is kind of injected into Terra Zones. So whether it's a new specific item that can only drop for Terra Zones, like a chase item, that would be very, very cool. Like, I don't know, maybe something like a different unique charm that would have a very low drop rate, but have preferable, you know, powerful associated stats to it or something. Like anything that's going to change something up. And in addition to that, it would be very cool. It might be impossible to do coding wise, but the same way that we have SOJ events and we sell, you know, Stones of Jordan and we spawn Diablo clone, maybe it would be cool if you could have like a Diablo clone or some sort of powerful monster spawn in the Terra Zone. It doesn't have to drop an anti-charm. It doesn't have to drop like keys or organs. It doesn't have to be an item-based drop, but it would just be interesting if like you could make it so that a different monster, powerful Blood Raven or something, spawn at the end of the Terra Zone, so you could farm all the monsters and then take on a boss as a group and just rinse and repeat. So anything that's sort of along the lines of new content, I think would be welcome as well. But guys, that basically wraps up today's video. Again, I know it was a quick one. I've been pretty busy IRL, but that is sort of the common feedback that I've seen, and I largely agree with you guys. The experience race and change I was a little bit iffy with until I actually kind of like thought about it from the general player perspective instead of like an 8-man dedicated group. But that's basically everything that I have for Terra Zone, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Again, feel free to let me know in the comment section below if you guys agree or disagree, or you would like to add anything different. If you think I missed anything, now is another opportunity to provide some community-based feedback for PTR. Other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you on my next one. Peace out.